Hi guys, welcome to this week's Meal on a Budget. As with our first video of the month, we are doing leftovers. So we have our leftover chicken, the rotisserie chicken that we used a week or two ago, our leftover tortilla chips, as well as our taco seasoning. So we're going to be using that, and we're going to be making chicken fajita nachos. So we'll use those ingredients. Then I also had to pick up some shredded cheese, a jalapeno pepper, 1 onion, and 1 pepper. I wanted to go with the green bell peppers because they do end up being cheaper. Unfortunately, our selection of green bell peppers was very questionable. So I went with these. I ended up spending $12.11 for this, and that is strictly because our cheese was $8.99. If you have a salad bar that you have at your grocery store where you can buy it for $1.50 per 100 grams, go and do it that way so you don't have to buy an entire 500-gram bag of cheese. Unfortunately, the cheese, again, just like the green peppers, were not so great. You can also do the same for the bell peppers and the onions if they're available in the salad bar, because they do end up working out a little bit cheaper if the price is less than the per kilogram price on the vegetables. Either way, it was $12.11. We will definitely have leftover cheese, but we'll come back in a minute, start getting everything prepped, and we will get these nachos started. So we are getting things started here to do our chicken fajita nachos. So we have the 2 bags of the rotisserie chicken that we bagged up last week. We're just going to take that out. If you're only doing it for yourself or for 1 or 2 people, then I would use only 1 of the bags, leave the other one in the freezer. We do still have 1 bag of chicken in the freezer to use at a later point. So we're just going to chop this into more bite-sized pieces so that we have a nice bite when you go into a fajita. And my cutting board is a little lopsided, so it is making a bit of a noise here for you. But we're just going to go into bite-sized pieces. Again, we have the restaurant-style tortilla chips, so they're a little bit larger. So if you wanted to keep the bites for your chicken a little bit larger, you can do that as well. So we've got that chopped up. I've got a little bit of oil in my pan. I'm just going to take the chicken, put that in there, warm that up a little bit so that all we're doing when we put it into the oven is finalizing it a little bit. So get rid of those gloves and my chicken board. We have our leftover taco seasoning. You can go and buy a fajita seasoning. The only difference is there's a little bit of smoke spice. So if I'm making quick, cheap nachos, I'm just going to go with what I have on hand. So we're going to let that stir up a little bit. And while that is heating up, we're going to do a quick chop with a different knife here. I apologize. We're going to do a quick chop on our peppers. If you were doing regular fajitas, you would put these into strips so that it fills the entire tortilla shell. But because we're not doing that, we're going to go with the same size cut on your peppers that you have for your chicken. So just a standard bite size. And it's not about uniformity. It is just about getting it nice, colorful, and delicious on your pan. So we are going to chop these up. And again, use whatever peppers that you're able to get inexpensively. If you can get them on the salad bar, they're already sliced as a fajita strip, so you can just chop them in pieces. If you can't get them that way, some stores do sell the pre-chopped vegetables in the freezer section. I find peppers don't freeze overly well, but if you're using them quickly and you do this saute a little bit to get rid of some of that excess moisture, that'll work. So we have our peppers. We'll do the same cut on the onion. Just watch your fingers. Toss that into the compost here. I won't be using the entire onion, but I can put it into my eggs or something in the morning. So I'm just going to cut half, the other half to the side. Please be careful and watch your fingers. The easiest way to dice onions is to cut horizontally, then vertically, And then a quick, and we have that diced, and then we just do a quick chop for the rest. So we have everything ready, and because the chicken was already cooked, we don't need to wait for that to finish. We're going to throw all of the peppers and onions into the pan, saute them up so that they get a little bit soft. And again, it's so that when we toss it all onto the pan for the oven, it's all ready to go. So give me a few minutes and we'll be back to assemble the nachos on the pan. So our chicken is sauteing with the onions and peppers. I've laid out a sheet of aluminum foil underneath the tortillas. I'm going to put a layer of cheese on because we have a lot of extra cheese. We might as well use it so that every bite will have a good amount of cheese on it. I did buy one jalapeno pepper. This ended up costing me 24 cents. I like the pickled jalapenos, but they were $3 a jar, and I'm using one. So it wasn't worth it in the budget this week. But if you have jarred jalapenos, if you wanted to spend the money, or if you wanted to put this into some vinegar overnight, some rice vinegar or some white vinegar, you can pickle your own jalapenos, but it's not absolutely necessary. Most people put rings of jalapenos on their nachos. I find those bites are a little too spicy for me. So I'm just going to do very similar to what I did before and just do small dices. And I might not even use this whole one. Yeah, we'll put it on anyway. So raw jalapenos are perfectly fine. You don't have to saute them and include them in your mix. And I also have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. So I'm going to sprinkle the jalapenos on top of this. And again, if you were doing this for children, maybe make 2 smaller trays. You can use the 9 by 9 square tins, or just don't put jalapenos on 1/2 of them. So we've got our jalapenos on here. Put the rest on just for good measure. Turn that off. Over a little bit. So we have our tortillas all ready. We'll just spoon some of this over. And the cheese will actually start melting from the heat of the meat and peppers and onions that we're putting on top. We'll just get those all nice and slathered. So we've got a good amount of vegetables and chicken over the entire tray. So that everyone gets good bites. That there. And a little bit more cheese. Sprinkle them on top. Get it nice and good to go. Away. Toss it into a 350 degree oven just for a few minutes to get that melted cheese. We'll get it dished up onto the table and we'll be back in just a few minutes. So now we're ready to just pull these out of the oven. Everything is nice and cheesy and gooey. A little bit of bubbling happening here. So we are going to try not to burn ourselves. And as I mentioned, I do have a sheet of aluminum foil underneath because it'll make it a little bit easier to pull it off. So we're going to just put this onto the pan here and we'll be back in just a second. So I've transferred the nachos onto our platter. I'm also going to serve it with a little bit of sour cream and salsa, only because that's how I like my nachos. Do whatever you need to do. You can do this with any type of leftover meat that you have. We have a lot of cheese left, so I'll probably use cheese next week in my recipe. But $12.11, and the most of that budget was for the cheese. So if you have a bag of cheese that you have in your house, a block of cheese that you can shred up, it'll save a little bit of money. But it's a good way to use your leftovers, and it's actually going to be quite a hearty meal because that is a significant amount of nachos. We will see you next time. Stay well and stay safe.